Good morning, everybody. Welcome into To The Point. We all had a great holiday season. I guess New Year's is still on the horizon. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Been off for a little bit. Just took some time off. Spent some time with some friends, family. It was very nice watching the World Juniors, but so much has happened, and I have a lot to react to. We have the NFL only 2 weeks left. Ugh, it is depressing. I hate it that it's coming to an end, and I see it coming, and it's almost like you're gonna get hit by a bus, and you see the bus coming. You think you can get out of the way, but really you can't. So it's a sad existence, but we'll get through it together. We will. But today we're gonna talk about the lines for this weekend's games because I've been on a hot streak. Let me tell you. Christmas Day hit a little two-leg parlay with the Raiders and with the Giants. Nice little payday. I had the Detroit Pistons plus 17.5 last night against the Celtics. I only put $1 on it, but hey, it's $1. Made my money back and more. Dollar bet on the Pistons against the best team in the NBA. And what a game that was between the Celtics and the Pistons. Just goes to show it doesn't really matter. You can have the worst team against the best team. Sometimes you get a great result, a great game. So we're going to talk about that later on in the program. Some Leafs news that we'll react to. NHL is back, full throttle. So we got a big weekend coming up. We got a Winter Classic on Monday. Plan as of now, we'll be doing a podcast on Monday. We'll react to the NFL this weekend. It'll be the end of the preliminary round in the World Junior Hockey Championships. We'll talk about the college football playoffs, semifinals, which will be on Monday. One of the kickoff is at 9:45. Not thrilled about that, but not much I can do about it. Watch it, and it's Washington, Texas. Great game. So we'll preview that. The bowl games have been fun. Arizona beats Oklahoma last night. Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights beat the U. Kansas State wins the Pop-Tart Bowl, which I thought was cool. A much better than the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which is disgusting, if you ask me. If you're not familiar with this, and this is just some info. The Duke's Mayo Bowl was between West Virginia and North Carolina. And the winner of the game gets the reward, quote unquote. The head coach gets a jug of mayo dumped on him, like Gatorade if you won a championship. That might be. I'm not scared of many things. And I don't mean that to sound tougher than I am. But I'm not afraid of snakes. Not afraid of spiders whatsoever. Spiders are misunderstood, kind of like me. Love a tiger, lion. Animals don't. I love animals. If an animal kills me, so be it. Because that's a good way to go. Plus, I'm an animal person. So I don't have fears about that. I don't get fear about, a piece, some serial killer, whatever. If that happens, it happens. But I don't fear those things. I have, personal fears with family, things like that, but those are different. Getting a jug of mayo dumped on me might have become my biggest fear overnight because that is so disgusting. I hate mayo more than just about anything. If there's a sandwich with mayo on it, I can't do it. If I bite it, I know it, and just the taste, the feel grosses me out. And having that mayo put on me, nothing, I don't think there'd be anything worse. Saw Joe Flacco, the ageless wonder, had a bunch of slime dumped on him, no Nickelodeon slime. That's a whole lot better. No mayo, ever. So don't touch me with mayo, because I hate it, and it's gross. Ugh, Duke's Mayo Bowl, pass. Have you been watching the World Juniors? Gothenburg, Sweden. We are on day 4 now of the tournament. Canada is 2-0 as they prepare to face Sweden later on this afternoon in their biggest game of the tournament. They've dispatched Finland. They bludgeon Team Latvia. And now if they win today, they will win their group in all likelihood and be the first seed going into the quarterfinal. Here's what I'll say about Canada. I think they've had their ups and downs. Against Finland, tougher competition, a better team than Latvia, obviously. I don't think they played that well. I don't think they showed a whole lot that makes you love the team. I think they have high-end talent. This year, like last year, Team Canada's best player is a 17-year-old and Macklin Celebrini. Incredibly creative, an elite passer, which has been on display throughout the tournament from a number of guys, but Celebrini comes to mind for me. Canada is not a team full of high-end skilled players. They're skilled, they all have their ability. But Celebrini jumps off the page. I really like Matthew Savoie in his tournament. I think he's been really good, all over the puck, creative. In order to beat Sweden today, who you might look and go, oh, they've had mixed results, where they played the two easiest teams, true. But they've been in tough in a few of the games. They didn't score a whole lot of goals. I will say, Germany's a whole lot better than anybody gave them credit for. They battle hard, and that was a game until the latter parts of the second period yesterday for Germany. And they didn't even start Dietl, their number one goaltender. So credit to them. But Sweden, you look at their club. They're balanced. They have some creativity. Stenberg, who's not exactly, a number one center, had a hat trick yesterday. Bystad is, I think, their most creative player up front. Watch for him today. Lecker-Mackey, who's a Vancouver Canucks draft pick, he jumps off the page. He's had a good tournament. Just like Oscar Pettersson, another Vancouver draft pick, has played pretty well for the Swedes as well. Canada will win this game today and progress in the tournament if they use their physical advantage. Because I think if you're going blow for blow with skill, I don't know if Canada is going to win, because I've seen a tentativeness to their game. Normally when you see an NHL player, quote unquote, come back and play at the World Juniors, it can go one of two ways. It can be phenomenal, or they don't really shine. I put two of Canada's guys into that category. Through 2 games, Matthew Poitras and Fraser Minten, who started the year as an NHL player, haven't been that great to me. Fraser Minten needs to shoot the puck. He has so many opportunities where he's in high danger scoring chances, and he just doesn't shoot. I don't know why he's so tentative, why he doesn't pull the trigger. He scored a goal, yes, and Poitras scored a goal on beating Latvia, but who didn't? They scored 10. To me, Connor Geeky's going to be aggressive. Savoie's going to be aggressive. Carson Repkov, who was the 13th forward but scored 2 goals, when he's on the ice, he's going to get his looks. Because he doesn't know when he's going to get back on the ice. So he's going to take advantage of every opportunity, and there's not many better traits than that. Having that self-awareness and owning every shift. And I think he does that. You're looking at the Americans, the Swedes. That's the competition. Those are the teams that you're battling for the gold medal, and you might be able even to throw Slovakia into the mix. Canada's got a great goalie. He's been rock solid thus far. I think their defense is adequate. I think Maverick Lamoureux has been fantastic. 6'7", bulldozer, incredibly fast for his speed. That's incredibly fast for his height, pardon me. He can do it all. My guy, Noah Warren's been okay. Doesn't take a whole lot of risks. Furlong, Donovan, Bonk, all fine. I think you look at Matejchuk, Lamoureux, they are your top pair, and they do everything for you. Geeky, Rekoff, Jaeger. You have the checking line with Allard and Danielson. They've been impressive. They've had a lot of great shifts. They've played hard. They're a physical line. I think they need to have a good game today. But you need those top-end guys. Minton, pseudo-NHL player. Poitras, an NHL player before he came here, to be better. To have more of an impact. Don't be afraid to pull the trigger. Fraser Minton's got a good shot. So many times in the slide, he makes an unnecessary pass that doesn't lead anywhere. Have confidence in your abilities. You're the captain of Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. You know he can do it. He was playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs a month and change ago. But their goaltending's been great. I love Connor Geeky. That kid, so dangerous around the net. Great release, great shot. Faster than you might think. Because you look at him and go, he's a big dude. He can move out there. Sweden's got, they're a veteran-laden team. They have guys that played in this tournament before. A lot of returning guys. But they've kind of been like Canada. They haven't been that impressive thus far. They haven't allowed a goal in the tournament. I'll give them that. They've been rock solid in that sense. Hugo Havlid will likely get the start today. Here's my X factor for today's game. Physicality. Special teams always comes into it, but I look at two players on each team, and they're both defensemen. Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who to me is the most... He has the most skills. He's such a variety of talents for Team Sweden. High draft pick, was a first rounder last year. I think the kid's really good. I think he's going to be a good NHLer. He's been okay, a little quiet. I want to see him do more, have more of an impact on games. How does he play today? Sandin-Pellikka. For Canada, on the back end, my player is Jake Furlong, captain of the Halifax Mooseheads. He's normally a guy who likes to jump into the play, be involved in the offense, have an impact on the game. You slide into different roles. I get that on teams. But Lamoureux is a guy who hasn't, he has to do everything. He has to defend. You have to penalty kill. He's playing big. He's playing, 23, 24 minutes a game. What can Furlong do? Can he provide an offensive spark? Easy breakouts out of the zone. It doesn't have to be points. It's just your impact on the game. And if you're on the ice, are the minutes that you're providing good minutes? Because you can't be hemmed in the zone. It can't be a bad shift. They need to be consistent and have them offensive, productive when you're on the ice. So I'm looking for that today with Jake Furlong and Axel Sandin-Pellikka being the two guys I'm looking at today. I think it's going to be a fun game. Because the winner of this game is going to win the group, in all likelihood. And you'll get a much more favorable opponent in the quarterfinal. Because, for instance, if Canada loses today, they might have to play Czechia in the quarterfinal. And Czechia does not have as good a team as they did last year because they lost a lot of those returning players when they won the silver medal in Halifax. But they do have Edward Saleh and Yuri Kulik, who both had their respective hat tricks on Wednesday. They have a solid netminder. David Juracek's brother, has been really impressive. Adam has been good when he's out there. He's been banged up, but I like him. They still have talent. They have a scary power play. I would rather get Switzerland or Norway in the quarterfinal. Because neither team's very good, quite frankly. And while Switzerland should have beaten Slovakia on Wednesday, because they outplayed them thoroughly, it didn't happen. And it doesn't really matter. I don't rule out Norway beating Switzerland tomorrow. They play hard. They're physical. They get a good game from their goalie. Who knows? Also today, currently Slovakia is up 8-3 on Norway with 5 minutes to play. Slovakia is a damn good team. Damn good team. They might have the most impressive numbers of any team just when I come to players getting points. Dalibor Dvorsky, who's a St. Louis Blues first rounder, who played last year in the tournament as a 17-year-old, was really impressive to me. He didn't do a lot of offense, but that's not his game necessarily. I think he's going to be a great third-line checker in the NHL, and I think he's going to be an NHL player eventually. But people are saying, okay, he's got to do more offensively. Well, today's game, he's got 4 points in the rout of Norway. But Samuel Honzek has got 3 goals. Servac Petrovsky has 5. Peter Rebsek, former Charlottetown Islander, has 3. Maxim Strebik, watch him. Slovakia's got the United States on Sunday. Watch that game. Watch number 4 on the back. Damn good player. I like him a lot. Moves the puck efficiently. He recovers when he makes a mistake. He's not afraid to play, though. That's the biggest thing. You can make mistakes. Just cover. He's a second rounder for Buffalo, and he's only 18. He can play in this tournament again, and he's damn good. Not to mention Slovakia. They nearly beat Canada last year with a really young team. They had an 18-year-old as their captain, being Simon Nemec. Nemec could be at this tournament, but he's playing with the New Jersey Devils at 19 because Dougie Hamilton's out for the season. So he's getting an opportunity he doesn't get loaned from Jersey. But Petrovsky's been great. Philip Meshar, first rounder for the Montreal Canadiens. He's got 6 assists in the tournament. Strawback's got 5 assists in the tournament. Luka Radovojevich, I like him. Norway's made it a game. It's 8-4 as we talk through this. Not to mention Slovakia's got a really good netminder. I like him in Adam Gahan. But I mentioned Norway plays tough. They're down 8-4 today. They've given up Slovakia's 5 for 7 on the power play. That is so lethal. So many different options. Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard had a beauty this morning to open up the scoring in that game. But Slovakia's going to win today. The United States has Czechia I think the United States are going to win that game. It'll be Slovakia versus the United States for first in the group. And the United States should win that game. They have so much firepower. Jimmy Snugarud had a hat trick in the first period yesterday against Team Switzerland. Ryan Leonard is my favorite player on that. I think he might be my favorite player in the tournament. Incredibly creative, smart with the puck. You have Snugarud, Leonard, Smith, Frank Nazar had 5 assists yesterday in the win. Cutter Gauthier, Gavin Brindley. Hudson, the Montreal first rounder, has hardly been seen thus far. But that's okay for Team USA. Trey Augustine solid in between the pipes. Czechia should put up a good fight, but I expect the United States to win that game. But Slovakia, US, Sunday morning at 7 a.m. I'll be up. You got Canada today. And Finland, Latvia, puck dropping any minute now. Huge game, obviously. I expect Finland to win it because Latvia just doesn't have the firepower. But Finland needs it. They're 0-2. Losing a stunning game to Germany. Losing to Canada in the opener. 4 years ago, Finland did go to relegation. They won the game, so they didn't get sent down, but this has happened to them before. Where they bring over a team where you expect better and it didn't go your way. They're not scoring many goals, not getting timely saves. They need to do more on the power. Their power play's been horrendous. But we got a fun day of hockey still to come at the World Junior Hockey Championships. It's different not being in Canada, for sure. It's sad seeing the second rink empty for that Slovakia-Norway game. The United States-Czechia still won't have a huge crowd. Having it in Halifax and Moncton last year was such a luxury. But being at the majority of the Moncton games, I went to 5 or 6 of the Moncton games. You got a sense of the tournament, how people felt. I met parents. You had so random Switzerland game against Germany, and there was people there. People were excited. I don't see that in Sweden. And that's too bad because the hockey's fantastic. The tournament's special. This will be the biggest stage for the majority of these kids. You won't play in a bigger event. You won't have a bigger opportunity in your life. But I'm going to appreciate it because it's back in Ottawa next year, which is fine. But having it in junior cities, I think, is the better way to go than an NHL arena. It's all about gate, money, and tickets. I get it. But to me, having it in junior, having it in Erie and Sault Ste. Marie, whatever, I don't even know if they're close, would be a better thing than Ottawa. Because number one, you have to go to that rink in Canada, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere. You might find aliens out there. It's that far away, from anything else. There's no civilization. Just tumbleweeds and maybe aliens. Elon Musk might be trying to find UFOs out there. Better chance than finding anything else, any civilization, any drink of water. Oh, you get lost out there, no water, you're fucked. Out in Canada. But will we watch Will I contemplate going to that tournament and watching Canada? Of course. Of course. Because we're all hypocrites at the end of the day. But the tournament's been good. Seen a lot of guys playing college hockey. They're damn good. Snuggerud, Minnesota. Leonard, Smith, Nazer, Gauthier. Ryan Leonard's only 18. He's eligible to come back next year's tournament. First year at Boston College. 20 points in 17 games. So you're seeing some 17-year-olds, some 18-year-olds really play well. And that's impressive to see as well. Canada, Sweden. I think Sweden wins today. I think Sweden wins, and they win the group. I think they have a little more depth. Just a little bit. I think it's a close game. But I'm going to give Sweden the edge today, and they ultimately win. Let's move to the NFL, where so much is happening. In the NFL, so much is happening. Since we last spoke, the Kansas City Chiefs lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, despite the fact that the Raiders did not complete a pass in the second half. The Baltimore Ravens beat the best team in football. The Miami Dolphins won a game that they never win. The Dallas Cowboys lost a game they always lose. So, yin-yang. And the biggest story of the week, by far, for me, Russell Wilson has been benched by the Denver Broncos for the last 2 games of the season. Denver played at home Christmas Eve against the Patriots of New England. And Bailey Zappi and Chad Ryland led a drive down the field to win a game. 50-plus yard field goal. Patriots fans are pissed because you win the game. You want a better draft pick. Haha. And it doesn't work out. The Patriots win. Now they have the 3rd pick in the draft, and they could have had the 1st, but who cares? The bigger story is in Denver, where Russell Wilson has a lot of guarantees on his contracts. If he plays the whole season, if he's on the roster to start next year, if there's injuries, they kick in. And the Broncos, who are still in the mix to make the playoffs, by the way, because everybody is, with 2 weeks to play, say, you know what? No. Reportedly, Russell Wilson was talked to a few weeks ago, was asked to change up his contract, take some of the language out of it, take away some of the guaranteed money, and they let him stay. They let him play out the year. He did not want to do it, didn't like the way they talked to him about it. I don't blame him, by the way. I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan in the world. I think the guy has as big an ego as Aaron Rodgers, who gets, put down a lot for his ego and the way he handles things. But I got Aaron's back. He's my boy. But Russell Wilson has not been the problem for the Broncos this year. Their defense to start the season was a problem. Their wide receivers were a problem. But on Saturday night, Russell Wilson did not turn the ball over. He completed 25 of 37 passes, 238, 2 touchdowns. He ran the ball 4 times for 20 yards. He's had a pretty productive season. Overall, not to mention the offense has been really catered to running the football. Russell Wilson being a quote-unquote game manager. So it's been hard for him to screw it up, but it's also, you could look at it and go, the offense has been very pedestrian, it's been very mundane. So how could he be better than what he's done so far? This year, just a little over 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, sacked 45 times. He's had a good season. He's been productive. He's ran the offense. That's what you can say about Russell Wilson. But Sean Payton knows what he likes. He doesn't like Russell Wilson. Do I think Russell Wilson has a big ego? I know Russell Wilson has a big ego. Do I think Sean Payton has a? I know Sean Payton has a big ego. When you have two people with large egos trying to coexist, it normally doesn't work. One person's got to go. Sean Payton was paid $15, $18 million a year, and they like him more than they like Russell Wilson. So Russell and Sierra and the kids are going to have to find a new place to live because Deanna Rossini, of The Athletic, what did I say? Deanna something. I don't even know her name. Can't even pronounce her name. Deanna Rossini. There we go. Of The Athletic has already reported that Russell Wilson will be cut by the Broncos in March, and they will be moving in a new direction. And currently on FanDuel, the Minnesota Vikings are the favorite to land Russell Wilson. Don't know how they got there, but they do need a quarterback. So we'll see. But this is the end. Russell Wilson's tenure in Denver is over. It was a disaster of a trade. Multiple first-round picks, Jackson Smith-Njigba, tight ends. Seattle might make the playoffs in 2 seasons without Russell Wilson. Denver will not make the playoffs in either season with Russell Wilson on the roster. Not to mention, this is what the contract of Russell Wilson is. It's just, because they traded for him, they signed him right away, because why not? So the week that he's only going to be a free agent in 2029. He will be a free agent because they're going to cut him. So 2024, he's due to make $17 million base salary, $10 million bonus, $37 million in 2025, 10 bonus, $40 million in 2026, $44 million in 2027, and $50 million in 2028 with the Broncos. $124 million fully guaranteed at signing. He's already got that. $2024 option bonus, $22 million. That's why they're getting rid of it. But at the time, it was 5 years, $242.5 million with a $50 million signing bonus. Quarterback of the future. We found our guy, but then they got rid of the head coach, Nate Hackett. He goes to the Jets. They bring in Sean Payton. They lose 70-20 to the Dolphins. They're turning it around, but they don't want to pay him the money. Clearly, Sean Payton has control over the roster, and Russell Wilson will be gone. The Broncos, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to want a guy in the draft. If they're going to make a trade for a player, Sean Payton will have his choice. I still don't understand why Sean Payton didn't go to the Chargers, going to the Broncos, but that's a whole other story. Money talks at the end of the day. But the Broncos have the Chargers this weekend. No Russell Wilson. I kind of feel bad for him, and I don't really like him that much. And I feel for him. So maybe that's me evolving as a human being. Don't really like it. Jared Stidham will start the final 2 games of the season, was a backup for the Patriots. So they're going to give him a look, play some quarterback. But it's one of the worst trades in NFL history. Because think of Seattle with Geno Smith and some of Drew Lock. They're going to make the playoffs potentially twice, and the Broncos don't make it any. So this is the trade. Russell Wilson. Seattle gets tight end Noah Fant, who only makes $6.8 million bucks. He's got four touchdowns this season. He's a good player. They got Drew Lock, who beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football. A good backup the last 2 years. Reliable, good person. Him and Geno seem to have a great relationship. He's a free agent in March. He's been worth it. Shelby Harris, they cut him for money, so he didn't factor in. Charles Cross, 9th pick. That was the pick from the Broncos out of Mississippi State. He's played well after battling some injuries. They get outside linebacker Boye Mafe, who has been awesome. 9 sacks in his second season. He's been all over the place. Tyreek Smith at outside linebacker. They get cornerback Devon Witherspoon, who's been awesome this year for them. Derek Hall has been great. These are their draft picks, the players they brought in for Russell Wilson. Improve their team, and while they haven't won a division title, they might make the playoffs for 2 consecutive years in a tough NFC West, while the Broncos won't sniff the playoffs in the AFC West. Disastrous trade. They have to get rid of him. They have to eat money. It doesn't help their team right away. It's a tough PR move because you're still on the hunt. You're saying, okay, we're going to bench our quarterback because we want to save money moving forward. Better get the next guy right, Denver, because they've been doing this since Peyton Manning retired. Brock Osweiler can be the guy to replace Peyton Manning. No, we can't. We're going to get Chad Kelly at Ole Miss. Well, he's got some problems off the field. He's got to figure that out. Now he's playing in the CFL, and he's great. He was the most outstanding player, and he's a pretty good analyst as well for the 3-letter. It's good on Chad Kelly. It didn't work out there. Trevor Siemian, 7th rounder out of Northwestern. Pass. Nope, didn't work. Drew Lock. Drew Lock's our guy. No, he isn't. And now Russell Wilson is not the answer as well. Do they try to trade up? Does somebody follow them? Do they find a veteran? Is Trey Lance available for cheap for the Broncos? They want to take a chance on him. Do they see something that he can bring to the table? Interesting offseason for the Broncos. Tommy DeVito was also benched this week by the Giants. Tyrod Taylor will be under center for their game this weekend. And Big Nick Mullins has been benched by the Vikings. They will go to Jaren Hall, the rookie. He's made one start in his career, did not play more than 1 quarter. He took a massive hit at the goal line, was concussed. That brought on the Pastronaut era, which then brought on the Nick Mullins era, and now it's back to Jaren Hall with only 2 weeks to play, with the Vikings somehow still in the mix. But they're a team that's played 4 quarterbacks this year that might make the playoffs. There's a team that have played 4 quarterbacks this year that is going to make the playoffs, and they punched their ticket last night, and that's the Cleveland Browns. I've had a hatred for the Cleveland Browns. It's got nothing to do with Cleveland. City, I'm sure, is great. People, dog pound, love all that. Deshaun Watson's a scumbag. I've talked about that for a long time. Don't regret anything I've said. I think I'm right about it. I think the dude's scum. But then he got hurt. And DTR, who I liked out of UCLA, and you got PJ Walker. Then comes Joe Flacco. off the couch, gets a call. And since arriving, Joe Flacco's been 5-1 in his 6 starts as a member of the Cleveland Browns. They improved to 11-5. And they're going to the playoffs, and they're going to be the 5th seed in the AFC, and I don't think anybody wants to play them. I wouldn't want to. The Kansas City Chiefs, who are a fucking disaster right now, do not want to play the Cleveland Browns. No way, no how. Because they're, pardon me, a dangerous bunch. The team who wins the AFC South does not want to face the Browns because I don't think any of Indy, Houston, or Jacksonville can beat Cleveland with that defense and with that quarterback. They played last night a Thursday night game without Amari Cooper, who was banged up after getting 275 yards receiving on Sunday. Joe Flacco, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns to Jerome Ford, touchdown to Elijah Moore, and David Njoku, who's had a resurgence this season with Joe Flacco, who has 81 receptions, 882 yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. Could see him get to 1,000 if he has a big game in the finale. He had a $134 last night. They're missing pieces everywhere. Their offensive line's banged up. You're without Nick Chubb, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL. And yet you continue to find ways to win. Pierre Strong, Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, Joe Flacco, Elijah Moore, Jordan Akins, and Njoku. They crushed the Jets by 17. Cover the 7.5 spread easily. But to me, it's more just about Joe Flacco connecting with this team having the belief. Kevin Stefanski has to be in the running for Coach of the Year. I think John Harbaugh, if the Ravens finish with the best record, he should win it because I've always said I like the Coach of the Year winning who has the best record. Makes the most sense to me. The MVP normally goes to the quarterback on the best team. I think the coach should have the same thing because what's the difference? He coached pretty hard to get you into that situation, but Kevin Stefanski, absolutely in the running. 4 quarterbacks, no running back. Lost Jack Conklin on their offensive line in week 5, and you keep it on the rails? You're 11-5 going into the last game of the season? You could get 12 wins playing at Cincinnati in your last game. A 12-win season with 4 quarterbacks? After all the years of Cleveland having no success with any quarterback? They couldn't find one? An organization just fraught with peril? Seeing the Browns make the playoffs last night, seeing the Detroit Lions win a division title for the first time in 30 years on Sunday afternoon. Nice stories. Good stories to see because those fan bases have been through a lot, have been through bad football, bad ownership, seasons where you didn't win a game, both of those franchises. And you come out the other side, and while I'm sure Browns fans don't think they can win the Super Bowl, I'm not ruling it out. In the AFC and in the NFC, quite frankly, nobody's great. There's good teams, sure. But there's nobody that just scares you. Kansas City's a fraud. Baltimore's good, but they have their holes. Miami, I like Miami, but I don't trust them. The other wildcard teams, does Indy get in? Does Jacksonville make the playoffs? They've been a tire fire. Why can't they win? Why couldn't they get to an AFC championship game, being a road team and finding their way? If Buffalo can, why can't Cleveland? The big bad Buffalo Bills. We're going to talk about them. They've been having a good stretch. They're playing good football, don't get me wrong. But they can't. They absolutely can. Josh Allen, the MVP of the league. Give me a break. If they can, absolutely. The Browns can too. That's my rant on the. I like the Cleveland Browns. I'm not rooting for them because I don't root for anybody, but they're a good story. Monday Night Football this week is on a Saturday. Part of the reason for that is because the college football playoffs are on Monday. So the mothership doesn't want to put an NFL game interfering with the college football semifinals, so they put it on Saturday. Fine with me. Not to mention, it's a good game. Detroit Lions, fresh off winning a division title, head to Dallas to play the Cowboys, who have lost a couple in a row to Buffalo and Miami. Dallas will be, it's a special night in Dallas because Jimmy Johnson is finally going into the Ring of Honor. Should say 3-time Super Bowl champion, but it only says 2. Barry Switzer gets credit for that third one, but it was Jimmy's team. We all know it. Troy Aikman will be there, a lot of ex-Cowboys. So it should be a fun night. Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson cutting it up. Cowboys play great. We know how this works. Cowboys play great at home. They can't win an important game on the road. They shouldn't have been in a position to beat the Dolphins on Sunday, but they were. The Dolphins found a way to win. Detroit still has a lot to play for because they still have a chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. 49ers, Eagles, Lions, all at 11-4. Eagles have the Cardinals. We'll talk about that. And 49ers also have a pretty winnable game. But if Detroit can find a way to win this, who knows? Cowboys are a 6-point favorite. You lose 2 in a row. You go home. A special night for Jimmy Johnson. I thought it'd be a smaller spread. I'm going to be honest with you because Detroit does have a better record than Dallas. It's by 1 game, but they still have a better record. Dallas is great at home. Detroit does have their flaws. They don't play great football all the time. They didn't play great against Minnesota. This is a rebound game for Dallas. And I love betting dogs. I just don't feel it with Detroit in this game. A letdown game. Dallas needs that momentum so that everybody believes in them going into the playoffs. The bettors are betting on it. They need that momentum. They need the suckers to put money on the Cowboys in their first playoff game. So Dallas -6. Arizona, Philadelphia. Philadelphia finds ways to win, but they never do it in an impressive fashion, ever, seemingly. Giants kept it close. Giants covered the spread. Tyrod Taylor threw all over them, gave up a horrible touchdown late in the game with their cover. Their secondary can be had by anybody. Jalen Hurts had a better game than the past number of weeks. I saw signs from the Eagles that they can turn around their offense. Arizona, Kyler Murray has not practiced all week because of an illness. Normally when an illness, you find a way to play. So I'm going to bank on Kyler Murray playing in this game. It's Philly at home, and they're a 10.5-point favorite. Interesting because they were a 13.5-point favorite, 14-point favorite last week against the Giants. The Giants are a better team than the Cardinals, but the Giants covered. Thank you. And now it's only 10.5 points. So it's showing you, I think, money's coming on in Arizona and that Vegas does not trust the Eagles anymore, which they should. Kyler Murray can throw the ball down the field to Marquise Brown, to Trey McBride. He can make plays to guys. Philly will win this game because they're at home and they need to. If they win their last two games, they win their division. They have a chance to be the number one seed if San Francisco falters. So Philly will win this game. I think Arizona, with that Philly secondary, the way that they play, I think Arizona can cover the spread because I just don't trust the Eagles. The Eagles should never be a 10.5-point favorite because they're not good enough to be a 10.5-point favorite. Arizona, plus 10.5. The Atlanta Falcons at the Chicago Bears. Atlanta is still in the mix in the NFC South. However, they need to win this game. Chicago's out of it, but still playing for pride. Bears are at 6-9. Justin Fields has played pretty good football as of late. You're starting to see some momentum from the Bears moving towards the future. They know they're going to have the first or second pick of the draft because they have Carolina's pick, so it doesn't hurt them to win games. Helps them moving forward. Said Atlanta is 7-8. They need this game. They're looking at Tampa, who are 8-7. Tampa loses this week. They win. They're tied for the division lead going into the last week of the season. Taylor Heineke won last week. The Green Lizard, our guy here on the podcast, threw the ball down the field a bit. They ran the football with multiple options. They ran the football over 40 times. That's the way they have to play. That's the way they're going to win. Chicago's a 3-point favorite. Atlanta's a dome team. Last day of December in the cold in Chicago. Heineke played in Washington, so he knows what it's like to play outside in January. It's a tough game. But I think Justin Fields plays good enough to cover that spread at home. I think the Bears eliminate the Falcons from their hopes of making the playoffs. Bears get a win at home and they cover that 3 points. Carolina Panthers, speaking of NFC South, at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has an ankle injury. He has a shoulder sprain. Plus, he's just not that good. His numbers this year have been dreadful. Somehow, the Jags are still leading their division at 8-7. They were once 8-3. So they've lost 4 straight. They lost by 18 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Trevor Lawrence, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions on the season. Fumbled 12 times, lost 7. He's been dreadful. Dreadful this season. Calvin Ridley hasn't been as good as you expected. Christian Kirk, down numbers. ETN hasn't been as good as you might expect. Might not even get to 1,000 yards this season. The Jags need to survive. You win your last 2 games. You win your division. You're in the playoffs. Win them, you're in. That's what Jacksonville is. Carolina has nothing to lose as well because they don't own their pick. So they've been competing. They've been playing better football. Bryce Young's been better. Chuba Hubbard's running the football tough. They're not a good team at 2-13, but they lost by 3 points to the Packers in a wild game that they probably should have won. Their offense can put up points. Bryce threw for 300. Didn't turn the ball over for the first time, seemingly forever. DJ Chark had 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thielen caught for 100 yards. I think Jacksonville probably wins this game. I'm not betting against that. But what I will say is I'm betting on Carolina to cover. It's 6.5. Jacksonville's not a great team. They don't have a great home field advantage because there's not enough fans to really make it loud in there. Carolina they're playing hard right now. They're going to go in there, cover that number. Carolina plus 6.5. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Indianapolis Colts. Thing for Indy, they're still vying for the AFC South title at 8-7. Same record as the Jags. Currently, they're in the final wildcard spot in the AFC. They finish home to the Raiders, home to the Texans. Raiders are 7-8. They're still in the mix. They win this game, they could potentially still get into the playoffs. They need a lot of things to go their way. But they're fresh off beating the Kansas City Chiefs without Josh Jacobs, without Devontae Adams without having a quarterback having an effect on the game. Antonio Pierce has had an effect on that team. I think he should be the next head coach. He's the interim right now. But they're riding that wave of momentum. Need to run the football. They need their defense to step up. Gardner Minshew didn't play well last week against the Falcons. We'll see if he can bounce back. It's Indy at home by 3.5. Two very similar teams. Two teams that don't have their quarterback of the future on the roster. Two teams trying to figure it out again. Minshew, a backup quarterback for Anthony Richardson. Aiden O'Connell, a backup quarterback for Jimmy Garoppolo. I just didn't see enough from Aiden O'Connell to get enough trust to bet on the Raiders to cover this number. I'm fine betting on a big number, but 3.5. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a game I'm going to watch on the 1 o'clock slate for sure. But I like Indy in this game. Indy minus 3.5. Los Angeles Rams at the New York Giants. It's funny we're at this point, late December, and I feel so much confidence in the Rams. Rams are 8-7. Fresh off beating the Saints at home. Had 10 days off. Stafford's playing some of the best football in the NFL. Puka Nacua is a stud. Cooper Kupp's a complimentary receiver. Kyron Williams. Aaron Donald playing good football. I trust that the Rams are going to make the playoffs at 8-7. They're currently in the second wildcard position, one up on the Seattle Seahawks. They get the Giants in New York. Tyrod Taylor under center. Giants made some good plays on Monday. They had some moments in that game where I actually thought, wow, they might actually win this. They might come back and win the game outright. 5.5-point dog. The thing is, I trust the Rams to score more points than the Eagles. And Matthew Stafford to connect on these passes, receivers down the field. Giants will hang in there, but I think the Rams win by more than 5.5 points. Rams improve to 9-7. And we'll need to look at what happens this weekend, but also say, we beat the 49ers in the last week. We're a playoff team. That's where I expect this to go. Game of the weekend, you could argue. Certainly game of the 1 o'clock slate. Miami Dolphins at the Baltimore Ravens. Jalen Waddle will not play for the Miami Dolphins. They'll be without Connor Williams in their offensive line. Tyreek Hill should play. Tua, of course. Raheem Mostert's questionable after leaving the game on Sunday. Ravens are coming off their biggest win of this year, I think many years, beating San Francisco in Santa Clara. Dolphins are coming off their huge emotional win over the Dallas Cowboys on Christmas Eve. I said the Dolphins don't win that game. They never do. But they found a way to win it. A banged up Tyreek still had 100 yards receiving. They couldn't score touchdowns, but Jason Sanders made 3 field goals of over 50 yards. Bradley Chubb and those pass rushers, Andrew Van Ginkel, who's been fantastic all year, came to play and made Dak's life a living hell for most of the day. They need to have a plan for Lamar Jackson. Having a spy on Lamar the entire game is the way to go because I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are a great team running the football anymore. So many injuries to important guys. You're relying on Gus Edwards to be your feature back, and he's just not a feature back in the NFL. He's a good complimentary guy, good in the red zone. But if you're Miami, you have to look at it and go, we're going to put Jalen Ramsey on Rashad Bateman, potentially, on Isaiah Likely, potentially, as weird as that sounds, putting a corner on a tight end. Thing about Lamar is he can go to so many different guys. It could be Aguilar's day. It could be OBJ. Jalen Ramsey against Zay Flowers would be awesome to watch as well. So I would trust Jalen Ramsey in a 1-1 matchup. I'm not doing that to Xavier Howard because Xavier Howard's just not what he used to be. No Waddle hurts, certainly. But you do have Tyreek, and they used Durham Smythe more last week. You still have your running backs. Cedric Wilson, Robbie Chosen, who left the game, could be involved. Maybe it's a day Chase Claypool gets some snaps. Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite at home. The Ravens win this game, they will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Dolphins lose this game, they're still sweating because they have to worry about the Buffalo Bills, who they play in Week 18. Run game, advantage Miami. Defense, I'm going advantage Baltimore slightly. Quarterback, advantage Baltimore. Dolphins beat Baltimore in Baltimore last year. And the biggest Dolphin comeback since Marino played. They came back from 24 down. So they have won. 2-1 in Maryland. Dolphins win, they have a chance at the number 1 seed. Because both the Ravens and the Dolphins will be 12-4 if the Dolphins win on Sunday. The game will be close. Nip and tuck. The teams know each other well. Baltimore likely wins. I think it's a 3-point game. The spread's at 3.5. I'm going to take Dolphins plus 3.5. Because I've seen them do it in Baltimore. New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. This is one of my easiest picks of the weekend. You know, I love FanDuel and I love Vegas for making these lines for us because it creates content. Talk about it and place bets, and it's all great. Sometimes I feel bad for these sports books because, you know, the sports books are a lot like media members or just the fans at large. They love the Buffalo Bills. They are horny, capital H, for the Buffalo Bills. And I don't get it. Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen, okay. Sean McDermott, who has no personality, okay. Stephon Diggs, like him, good personality, fiery guy. James Cook is fun. But Buffalo had a huge spread against the Chargers, and Easton Stick covered. Because why not? The Giants covered against the Bills. Bad teams have covered against the Patriots, covered against the Bills early in the year. Bad teams cover against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo big spread on the road last week in Los Angeles, where there were more Bills fans than Chargers fans. And yet after Chargers cover nearly win the game if Easton Stick doesn't make so many mistakes, Bills do lose. They now get the Patriots at home. Bills lost to the Patriots earlier in the year. And they are a 13.5-point favorite. Interesting. I'm taking the Patriots. Patriots beat the Bills in Foxborough. Patriots beat the Broncos, covering the spread, in Denver just last weekend. Bailey Zappe's 4-2 as a starter. Bill Belichick seems to have a pep in his step. They're playing better on offense. I don't know if Bill Belichick's going to be fired or what's happening there, but they're playing hard. Bills make mistakes. They do stupid stuff over the course of the game. They had 3 turnovers against the Chargers to keep the game close. They'll do that again. Patriots are used to shitty weather, just like the Bills are, so there's no advantage there. I don't get it. 13.5, okay, 10 maybe. Maybe. They did it to the Eagles. We talked about this. 10.5, I'm still taking the Cardinals. But they dropped the number by nearly 4 points. They don't do it to the Bills. 12.5-point favorites against the Chargers. 13.5 against the Patriots. Chargers are 1 game better. 1 win better than the Patriots. And that Patriots fans rejoice. I don't think you'll win the game because the Bills are going to make the playoffs. And they could win the Super Bowl. Because they are that, don't get it twisted, they are that talented, but they're annoying. Because it's like, okay, dude, just cover the spread easy. Like, I couldn't imagine betting this weekend on Buffalo minus 13. There's nothing would make me want to do that. Other than getting mayo dumped on me, I would never make that bet ever. Ever. And even if I won it, I wouldn't still trust that I won that bet. I had more faith in my Pistons $1 bet last night. I was visiting my good friend, former co-host, Seamus, yesterday. And I told him I'm betting on the Pistons tonight. And he didn't even look at me crazy. If I told him I'm betting on the Bills, he should slap me over the head. Stupid. Patriots. Plus 13.5. Patriots fans, I don't hate you. Your team just isn't very good, but the Bills screw it up. So, you got my bet. New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception his last 3 games. Tampa blew out Jacksonville. They beat the Packers. They have been, by the way, Tampa was an underdog last week against Jacksonville at home. Tampa beat the Saints 26-9 earlier in the year in New Orleans. So I think it's probably a decent favorite. Tampa's only a 2.5-point favorite at home against New Orleans this week. Weird to me. Weird line. I trust in Baker. Bucks win this game. Saints are eliminated. And if the Falcons lose as well, Tampa's locked up a division title. With Baker Mayfield in the season, I think they expected them to punt. I think Tampa's going to win the NFC South. The connection with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, the way Baker's throwing the ball down the field. Rashad White's a good player. Their defense, veteran-laden, have held up. Todd Bowles is going to keep his job. This season went a lot differently than I think a lot of people in Tampa expected. They have to make a decision on Baker Mayfield, whether to pay him, what to do. But I don't like the Saints. I don't trust the Saints. They've been fraudulent since week 1. Derek Carr, no thank you. Tampa at home, 2.5. Easy bet. Tampa, minus 2.5. San Francisco 49ers at the Washington football team. Washington is a 12.5-point home underdog. Sam Howell benched by Riverboat Ron Rivera. Jacoby Brissett, who was a great backup for Cleveland last year, is back under center. He played really well in relief, trying to come back against the Jets last weekend. San Francisco's got to be pissed, losing to Baltimore at home. Kyle Shanahan used to coach in Washington, so where he got his start, working with Robert Griffin Jr. III. Washington's playing out these last 2 weeks, waiting to fire Ron Rivera, maybe firing their general manager, Joe Harris picking a new head coach, his head coach that he wants, moving forward, likely moving forward with a new quarterback now that Sam Howell's been benched. Really good start to the year, but he's dipped since then. So with all that being said, I normally love taking a huge number and taking that team. I just don't trust Washington to do it. So San Francisco minus 12.5, but I'm not betting that game. Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Two teams that had backup quarterbacks last week. Will Levis missed for Tennessee with an ankle injury. He's returning this weekend. And also C.J. Stroud, who missed 2 games due to a concussion, will return for the Houston Texans. Houston still has a chance to make the playoffs. They control their own destiny in a sense because they play Indianapolis in the last week. So if you beat Tennessee, you beat Indy, you're in. In DeMeco Ryans' first year and C.J. Stroud's first season in the league. Tennessee's hung in there. They battled in these games. They don't win them, but they play tough. They did beat the Dolphins on that Monday night. C.J. Stroud coming back. I trust in Houston. Just don't think Tennessee's a great team. I like Houston at home minus 4.5. Brings us to the 5 o'clock slate. Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Seattle Seahawks. Pittsburgh is still in the playoff mix. Kenny Pickett remains out. Mason Rudolph will get his second consecutive start. His first one, he was awesome against the Bengals in a divisional game. Seahawks have won 2 kind of crazy games in a row. They edged the Titans and they edged the Eagles. They're 8-7. They are in a playoff spot as of now. And they get Arizona in their last game. So you think if they win this game, you'll win the last one. Steelers showed some offensive prowess, finding George Pickens, getting him over 100 yards in the first half alone. Establishing a pass game, play action, moving the pocket. Seattle offensively has not been great all year. They've had their issues. Pittsburgh's secondary is a little banged up. Seattle, kind of like New Orleans, hasn't been that tough at home in the last little while. Mike Tomlin finds a way to win this game. He's never had a season where he was below 500. He's 8-7, so he needs to win one of the last 2 games to guarantee that he continues that streak. Steelers currently are in the 5th spot, so they need to leapfrog the Texans, leapfrog the Colts. They need a lot of things to go right for them. But all they can do right now is win games and hope that somebody else loses. That Houston and the Colts both lose. And the Bills, quite frankly. Because they own the tiebreaker against the Bills. With the Patriots pull off a shocker and the Steelers win, Bills leave the playoffs and the Steelers get back into the mix. I think they're going to go into Seattle, and this is going to be a tough game. Physical in the trenches, a battle. TJ Watt will be over the football. against Seattle offensive line that can be very questionable at times. I don't know if the Steelers win, but I like the fact that it's 3.5, not 3 points. Field goal game that Seattle, all they've been playing is 3-point games. I'm taking the Steelers on the road plus 3.5. Banking on Mike Tomlin. Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. Cincinnati Bengals are also 8-7, so they're still in the mix. Chiefs are 9-6. The Raiders and the Broncos still could potentially win the division if everything goes right. So they have that to play for. One of the worst games of Patrick Mahomes' career. Bad fumbles, bad interceptions. Travis Kelce looks 100 years old. Taylor Swift's just sucked the life right out of him. They can't run the football. Nobody can catch. They give up two touchdowns to the defense of the Raiders. Just things you've never seen from such a well-oiled machine in Kansas City. Cincinnati got completely crushed on the road at Pittsburgh. Jake Browning looked befuddled. And now it looks like Jamar Chase is not going to play again. So that hurts the Bengals in a major way. Although it sounds like he's going to try to play. He's going to try to get back in. So we'll see. I think they'll announce that late and don't want to reveal anything. Kansas City being a 7-point favorite is scary. Because can they beat anybody by more than a touchdown right now is the correct question. Cincinnati has their flaws. They gave up huge plays in the passing game to Mason Rudolph last week. If I'm Kansas City, I'm trying things down the field. I'm throwing balls to MVS, to Rashee Rice. Kansas City needs some momentum. They need something to go right. They're going to have to play road playoff games for the first time this season. They could potentially be playing the Bills in a playoff game in the wild card round, which is pretty crazy to think about. I'd steer clear from this. I don't trust either team. I don't have a great feel. I'm going to take the Chiefs -7. They bounce back. They have a game. It's in prime time. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo calling the game. Patrick Mahomes has a game where you go into the playoffs and you go, okay, he's playing well. But I told this, talking with friends this week, I would be surprised if Kansas City makes the Super Bowl. Not just win. If they make the Super Bowl, I'd be surprised. Because this team, I don't like their makeup. I don't like their ability. I don't like their players. I just don't trust them. If they got there, I go, well, that's surprising to me. Because I didn't see that coming from this group of guys. So that's my level of faith in the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Started NFL talking about this game. We'll talk about it now. Chargers at the Broncos. Easton Stick. Chargers covered a big spread last week against Buffalo. Should have won the game, but they didn't. Broncos benched Russell Wilson, Jared Stidham under center. The line didn't shift much with Russell Wilson being out because the Broncos are still a 3.5-point favorite at home without Russell Wilson. I think Jared Stidham's a solid quarterback. He was decent in college. Chargers are not a good team. You have to go to Denver, play in the elements. No Keenan Allen. Denver just can't turn the ball over like Buffalo did, and it'll. Despite the fact that Russell Wilson's going to be benched, I think the Broncos will improve to 8-8 and still be in the playoff mix going into the last game of the season. Because the Chargers just aren't threatening. They don't want to win this game. Broncos, -3.5. And Sunday Night Football, to wrap it up for the week. Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Both teams 7-8. Both teams had their ups and downs this season. Nick Mullins benched for Jaron Hall. Jordan Love's been good, but they just barely beat the Panthers last weekend, 33-30. In Minnesota, so in the Dome, no weather. Vikings are 1.5-point favorites at home. In the brief time that Jaron Hall played, he looked pretty good, but then he got concussed. Packers have been without Christian Watson the last couple weeks. They've been relying on Wicks, relying on their tight ends to produce for them. Justin Jefferson is obviously back for the Vikings. TJ Hawkinson's out for the season with a torn ACL and a torn MCL. Brutal injury for him, one of the best tight ends in the game. I expect this to be a high-scoring game because the Green Bay Packers secondary sucks. Secondary for the Vikings is not much better. Both quarterbacks with decent numbers. I want to see Green Bay get Aaron Jones, continue to let him run the football. But I like the Packers on the road to win this game outright. So that's why I'm taking the Packers plus 1.5. They go into Minnesota, get the win. Minnesota will be eliminated from playoff contention. Packers remain in the mix at 8-8 going into the final week of the season. But it is very much a loser leaves town match where the loser of this game is done. Green Bay is the 6th seed in the NFC right now. Minnesota is number 4, so they're right outside. They're just one behind Seattle. I think Atlanta loses this weekend. I think Minnesota loses this weekend. I think the Saints lose this weekend. If Green Bay can win, you're 8-8, and you're hoping the Steelers can beat the Seahawks, and you're right there. Or the Rams stumble in that game against the Giants. But for the Packers, you go and say, we got to win a road game at the Vikings, and then you get the Bears at home to wrap up your season. Not a bad schedule. 2 division games against teams that don't have winning records. Packers aren't a great team, but could they make the playoffs? Absolutely. But to me, if the Seahawks can win against the Steelers, avoid that game, win it, they're at the Cardinals in Week 18. They will be a playoff team for the 2nd straight year with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll as the go-to combination. With the 12th man behind them, of course. That's the NFL talk for this coming weekend. It was our last Thursday night game last night. It's just the second last week of the season, Week 18, a week from Sunday. Then we get into the wild card games. This weekend, bowl action, college. Clemson, Kentucky this afternoon. Oregon State, Notre Dame. Missouri, Ohio State. Tomorrow afternoon, Ole Miss, Penn State. That should be a fun one. A lot of guys sit out these games, but you got some good players on both sides there. Georgia, Florida State, which Florida State says they should be the national champion. It's a bunch of malarkey. We got a bunch of games on Monday that we'll talk about. The bowls this weekend should be good. Talked about the Pistons. Watched them last night. They lost in overtime to the Celtics. Covered the 17.5. Proud of Kate. They played tough. Cade Cunningham's played some really good basketball just on a really bad team. Durant played tough. They're going to win some games. They could very well beat the Raptors this weekend. Because the Raptors play in Boston tonight. They have to play the Pistons on a back-to-back. Look out, Toronto. That's all I got to say. But, I mean, it's tough for the Pistons because it's almost like all moral victories right now because they were up 19 points at halftime and you lose the game in overtime. It's a pathetic state of affairs right now for the Detroit. They have 2 wins, and it's almost 2024. Their projected win total for the season is 7. So they tied the longest losing streak in NBA history. It was the Sixers that was over 2 combined seasons. They've already gone past the longest losing streak in just 1 season in NBA history. So if they lose to the Raptors on Saturday night, it will truly be a historic loss for the Detroit Pistons. Celtics continue to win. Huge win from the Nuggets last night as they crushed the Grizzlies. Oklahoma City, Denver, Saturday night. That's a fun game in the NBA. Really fun game. Raptors Celtics is good tonight. See what else is on tap for the NBA this weekend. Lakers Timberwolves. Lakers beat Charlotte last night. Timberwolves got a victory over against the Dallas Mavericks. Timberwolves have been so good at home. Lakers lost to Minnesota just a week or so ago at home, so you got that matchup. NHL, Mark Giordano returns tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ilya Samsonov between the pipes in Columbus, Ohio. So big news there for the Maple Leafs getting the veteran defenseman back. They're fresh off a loss to Ottawa, where I thought majority of that game they were playing fantastic and they let it slip away. Poor decision-making. TJ Brody, Morgan Riley, 2 guys who have been really good this season, were dreadful in that game with the puck, their decision-making. Maple Leafs will be fine. They're bouncing back. They're playing good hockey. Austin Matthews, everything that touches his stick is going in. I saw signs in that game of a team that's they're ready to start playing great hockey. So that's what I see from the Maple Leafs. I think they're looking good. Edmonton gets a victory last night. Philly gets a win in Vancouver. Impressive win. Vegas beats the Los Angeles Kings on a back-to-back. Maple Leafs Blue Jackets tonight. Maple Leafs Hurricanes. You got Rangers Panthers tonight. Capitals Islanders. That's fun. Avalanche St. Louis. Connor Bedard is just a must-watch. They're in Dallas. Starting Minnesota, Winnipeg in the afternoon. Minnesota's been, since making the coaching change, they really haven't slowed down. Predators, Capitals. Ethan Bear signed to a 2-year contract by the Washington Capitals yesterday, so he's joined the team. Devils, Bruins. Edmonton in Los Angeles. Always fun when those 2 teams lock horns. So that's really all for today. We'll be back on Monday with lots to say, per usual. We will recap the World Junior Championship weekend. We will recap the NFL. We'll talk some NHL. We will preview the bowl games in college football as we look ahead to the college football semifinals. So that's all coming up on Monday, New Year's Day. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year, however you celebrate New Year's. And we'll reconvene on Monday. Till then, take care. Happy holidays. This is To The Point.